In the video on numeric bindings, we saw that you can position various elements in a GUI by using bindings that are looking at the numeric variables and have formulas on them. We also saw that we got some interesting warnings from doing that. It turns out that that's not the ideal way to do it. That does give you basically unlimited flexibility, but it's not the most efficient way, and it's not the most efficient either in the terms of the program running or generally the programmer's time. A better way to position things inside of a GUI is, and to have it so they respond to things like changing size of the window or whatnot, is to use what are called panes. And there are different panes that have different layouts to them to determine how things are positioned. There are two packages that have panes in them. One is the ScalaFX scene.layout, and you can see there are a number of classes in here, a number of types that have the word pane. So the anchor pane is one, the border pane is another, the flow pane, the grid pane. Some of them don't end in pane. Turns out the H box is another one. The stacked pane, the tile pane, and then the V box. Okay, and so we want to go through and look at most of those to see how they lay things out. We'll also want to look at, there are some others that are back up in the control package. So and the ones that are put in control are typically more interactive. The ones that are in scene layout, they decide where things go, and the user doesn't really have the ability to adjust that. The ones that are inside of the control package give the user some interactivity, and the user has the ability to decide how they want to set things. So the accordion is one of the different panes in here. There is a scroll pane, which as you can see actually ends in the word pane, which will add scroll bars onto things. There is a split pane right here that allows the user to kind of drag a split bar so that you have two things that are displayed either side by side or above and below, and you can put them out. Actually, the split pane, you can put more than two things in there. There's also a tab pane, which is right here, so that you can have different tabs up, and you click on a tab and it shows a different GUI. And then there is a titled pane, which is a pane that has has a title associated with it, and it turns out these are used inside of the inside of the accordion, so that you can expand things out. So as our first example of these, I want to play with the border pane. So in order to work with that, we need to import ScalaFX.scene.layout, and I'm going to import just the border pane for now. I want to make one of these, so val border equals new border pane, capital P, and I couldn't spell border here either. And instead of setting this to contents, I'm going to set the root equal to border. It turns out that when you are working with these things, you pretty much always want to put the top level one as the root. As we've seen previously, when you put things in the content, they are put in a separate group, and they don't size with the window. When we were working with the list view, actually it was the table view, we put the table view in the root so the table would occupy the entire window. I want my border pane here to occupy this entire window. So let's see, control, I'm actually just going to go ahead and import all of control. That way I can put whatever I want into here. I don't really have to go back up and do different imports. To add things to a border, you set them to be one of 5 values. Those values are top, bottom, left, right, and center. Don't know exactly what I did there. Pinned, center. Okay. These are 5 separate areas that you can stick things in on the border pane. And each one gets the ability to hold one node. But of course, if you put in a node that can hold other nodes, like these panes, you can nest things and make more complex layouts. So to illustrate this, on the top, I'm going to add a new label. On the bottom, how about we go with a button? For the left, a list view might be good. So, new list view, list of 1, 2, 3. That should work. On the right, what would be a good thing to put over on the right? I know that on the center I want to put a text area, and I don't really care what's inside of that text area. Let's see. For the right, how about I'll put another button. Okay. And so the question is, what is this going to look like? ScalaFX of BorderPane. I made this 600 by 300, so we have our label that's on the top. I have a button on the bottom. I have a list over here on the left. I have another button on the right. And I have a text area in the center. What's significant about this is that as I change the size, you notice that everything moves around and kind of keeps an appropriate location. The way that things are sized for a border pane is the stuff on the top and the bottom gets basically the whole horizontal width, and it takes up just as much vertical as it wants to. The things that are on the left and the right take up the vertical space that is left after the top and bottom have taken stuff, and they get as much horizontal space as they want. So the list view likes being this wide, and so that's how much space it takes up. This button, because it has short text in it, is only hogging that much space. And then the center gets everything that's left over. So any of the space that wasn't used by these other 4 areas goes to the center, and in this case the text area is quite happy to fill all of that up. So that's the border pane. It is actually, I consider it to be one of the more flexible and useful things when we're trying to build interesting GUIs. We'll come back and we'll look at the other options for panes in other videos.